Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 6 for 6, where we're going to bring you the remaining two games of the World Cup at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen. You got the third place game in France and England, and the World Cup final is, Yamal versus Messi, the coming of age story, the full cycle moment, Spain versus great way to look at it. But if we look at all the previous stuff that's been going on in the semifinals, where England was trying to park the bus against Lionel Messi in Argentina and started playing defensive, going with five defenders in the back, wasn't the smart tactic. They should have kept pressing Argentina, maybe left some holes. But I mean, after Argentina got the equalizer, it kind of started to unravel this England's campaign. I thought they should have kept going instead of sitting back and letting Lionel Messi and the Argentina squad just take shot after shot at this goalie for England. But it is what it is at this point. They kind of blundered themselves, and I think that was more coaching than players and athleticism. I would have kept at one point. They've shifted their defense so far back where it was just only Harry Kane at top trying to produce some type of magic. But at the same time, Argentina was just swarming and just getting creative and forcing shots that were looking really good. And it was just a bend don't break mentality for England, but they just broke at the worst possible time. Now, if you look at France versus Spain, Mbappe just couldn't get going. It's just one of those moments where it's just like they just couldn't turn it over. I mean, the penalty kick that got Spain the lead was you could say it was controversial. I mean, Yamal went right there as soon as the guy was kicking. It was just a bang bang type of play. He sold it. He got the penalty kick, and that's how Spain ended up going up. I thought Mbappe or Dembele was going to score to at least bring it within reach, but sadly wasn't enough to get anything going. But now they're in the third place game against England. A lot of national pride at stake for sure. But before we go into England versus France and then the World Cup final, let's just do a quick recap of what we got thus far. So our last games that we talked about here on 6 for 6 was the quarterfinal games, and we got them all correct. So we're right now on a 10-game win streak, no losses, looking pretty good if you ask me. Hopefully we can get these two wins correct, and we have a 12-0 record, and that's pretty I know it's not always easy to achieve, but we're going to try our best to get these two for sure. But that means, ladies and gentlemen, getting that 4 wins in a row thus improves our record to 66, 27, and 6. Very great numbers for season 5. I'm pretty pleased on how this is turning out for us. I like where this is going. We're on a great track for 100 and all that stuff. But keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, since that the World Cup has wrapped itself up, we're going to go back to our weekly schedule program, getting things kind of built out a little bit, building the script in advance. I already have some of the shows already pre-prepped, getting ready to, I just have to add the games into the, I guess in StreamYard at this point, and then we're all ready to record. So like we're starting to streamline the process a little bit better. I'm pretty happy with that across the boards on that front. But hey, season 5, we're looking great. 66 correct picks, 27 incorrect picks, and 6 draws because of the World Cup. And we're going to bring some more MLS and Premier League content as that gets back underway after the World Cup. So we're just going to have loads of sports to fill in the gaps, maybe 2 MLS games, a couple baseball games, and then 2 WNBA games. Give us a nice full slate of action. But without further ado, let's just dive into the final 2 games of the World Cup. So like I mentioned, France versus England, third place game, July 18th, 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific time on Fox, ladies and gentlemen. I know Harry Kane and the English squad want to get something for the national team. Third place is good enough, but obviously you want to bring it home and win the World Cup or the Euros. Just find ways to do it. They just haven't been there. But at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, Kylian Mbappe wants to finish this World Cup with another golden boot. I think that's great for his career. For where we at, Dembele has 5 goals at the moment, so he's kind of out of contention. So it's really boiling down to the golden boot race is the third place game with Mbappe and how Messi performed in the World Cup final. I'm assuming Messi will get a goal in the World Cup final. And can Kylian Mbappe match that and get a couple of assists in there? to really pull this France team through, as well as get the Golden Boot award. Now, we're going to see how this all unfolds out. I know England has to get creative. They're going to probably try to press, but they like to lag behind a lot of games, and France just goes on an aggressive attack run. So we'll see what ends up happening. I like France personally in this one, just based on how they've been dominating teams in the World Cup. Because, like, if we're trying to look at just like the last games, I mean, they beat Morocco 2-0, Paraguay 1-0, Sweden 3-1, destroyed Norway 4-1, and before they got out of the group stage. And then you look at England's side, they were dealing with a lot of, I wouldn't say adversity, but like they tend to like struggle for no reason. You had Argentina in that game where they let them come back. They handled Norway, almost lost to Mexico, and Mexico's making a late surge when they were down 10 players. The Congo was almost a disaster for England, where they came back in the last nick of time, and then they beat Panama 2-0 on that front. So that's what we're looking at England on this front, ladies and gentlemen. I think they're going to start out slow and sluggish, and they're going to try to play a little bit of catch me up to keep them in line. But France is just going to keep attacking across the board. I mean, if we're going to try to use like a friendly to really back it up, we can look at the quarterfinals when France last time played England in the World Cup in 2022. France won 2-1, but then you have the last international friendly was 3-2 France, but at the same time that was in 2017. Completely different squad. But here, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at is just impressive France team all the way together. I thought this was going to be a fantastic comeback where we could see France versus Argentina round 2, unfinished business, and Mbappe steals it and beats Messi on the grandest stage, and that would close out Messi's career. But now you got a coming of age story with Yamal in Spain. But this is where my take is on this. England will take care. I won't say England's going to take care of business. France is going to show up and try to dominate and get the victory and get Kylian Mbappe. That's their mission at this point. England is trying to win the third place game to feel something, to get them to say, hey, we were just one game away from the World Cup final. Maybe the next World Cup, it will be ours. That's how they're thinking. But like, again, Bellingham and Kane, great combination this World Cup. It was fun to watch Bellingham to make things happen for this England squad. Same with Harry Kane. But I know World Cups are starting to run out for a lot of these players as they get closer to since some of them are now entering the third, possibly fourth World Cup. The national team's starting to change. So it starts to get a little hairy, not pun intended, in that scenario where you're trying to get your striker the last goal like Neymar, and the sad story of what the Brazilian national team is going through, not being able to get him his World Cup final. But in this matchup, France, England, third place game, July 18th, 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Pacific time on Fox, and I have France winning it. And now let's start talking about the World Cup final. Spain, Argentina, World Cup final, July 19th, 3 p.m. Eastern time, noon Pacific time here. The electric, the atmosphere, the drive, New York, and they have a capability of doing the unthinkable, of getting to the promised land and closing things out for this World Cup team. Can Yamal win it all for Spain, or will Messi cap off his heroic GOAT campaign story with another World Cup win back-to-back, really solidifying him as the GOAT, and Cristiano Ronaldo will have to take second place in that scenario? This is what we're going to have to deal with. I think Yamal has a chance to do history. You have the charity photo shoot with Messi holding him as a baby. It was beautiful. But now you have a scenario where the student, or you can say the next generation player, is going up against his idol, the guy that he looked up to for so long. He's now on his same footpath, now being at Barcelona, winning a couple major championships with the Barcelona squad and key tournaments so far, Yamal. But this is Messi's farewell tour, and this Argentina squad has been putting everything into this campaign, shocking the world in all that sense. But keep in mind, Argentina did have one of the easiest pathways to the World Cup final, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't want to discredit them that, but like the controversial Egypt call, definitely something that we have to will always be talked about for this World Cup. But even look at their matchups, they've been quite interesting. They beat England 2-1. They beat Switzerland 3-1. Beat Egypt in a thrilling fashion, getting 3 goals in 13 minutes. It was an incredible feat. And then they survive against Cape Verde in a 3-1, a glorious extra time win. And then they had Jordan to wrap out the group stage. So this is where this team is at. They've been playing for the thrill, to shoot the thrill, and saying that we're down and out, and then they come roaring back and they say we got this too, and just stun literally the entire crowd. Now you look at Spain's World Cup campaign. They knocked off France 2-1. No, 2-0. They knocked off Belgium. They beat Cristiano Ronaldo 1-0. They beat Austria 3-1. And then they lose to they didn't lose. They beat Uruguay in the group stage. And I think they tied Cape Verde in that whole scenario. So it's just like Cape Verde was the team that held these two great powerhouses. At that point, you could argue Cape Verde is technically the third place team with what they've done to the tournament thus far and everything. But sadly, they didn't make it because they had Argentina in the first round. I think they could have made a very good impact if they didn't have to deal with Argentina. I think they could have stunned the world. God would have been, like I said, America's Cinderella, America's favorite team at that point outside of Team USA on that line. But Spain, Argentina, Lionel Messi, the last dance, the final act, the script is starting to write itself. And the question will always remain, can Lionel Messi get it done? He technically could have World Cups in his career, but he lost in the 2014 one. I want to assume that's don't quote me on that, but I think he lost in that match. He did lose in a World Cup final. I want to say, I think it was to Germany, but I don't quote me on that. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't quote me on that. But he also ended up winning, against France, Kylian Mbappe, and now he's back at it for his last World Cup. Now, Yamal, he's been playing like an absolute rock star in his young career thus far, and adding the World Cup at his young age and beating off Messi is really a great docket to his resume. Beating Mbappe in France in the World Cup, and he's 6-0 against Kylian Mbappe thus far. So like his legacy is looking very, very good, Yamal. So we're gonna keep watching him as he grows and develops in the game, and him winning, if he beats Argentina in this World Cup final, he's on a great trajectory for his career, and hopefully that snowballs into great things and it doesn't impact him being on Barcelona and how that team will gravitate towards him, and as they continue to make deeper runs in the European circuit. But for me, I'm going out on a limb. I'm going to give Spain the edge. I was talking about all this World Cup that Spain is a possible favorite to win it. And like I said, a lot of people said they were a favorite. I like how they've been playing, but you can't doubt out this Argentina squad. They've been a thrill all time long. So I like where this is going to be played. And it's just going to be a thrilling match. Hopefully ends in regulation. But if it comes down on penalties, boy, we're going to be in for a thrill. You can catch Argentina, Spain World Cup final, July 19th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time on Fox. And like I said, we can do a quick recap and we'll get you on out of here so you can enjoy the remaining 2 games of the World Cup as they happen on Saturday and Sunday of this weekend. Like I said, France, England, third place game, July 18th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time on Fox. And I got France winning it. And then, like I said, for the World Cup final, Spain, Argentina, July 19th, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific Time on Fox, and I have Spain winning it. Last episode, ladies and gentlemen, we went 4-0, and our overall record for Season 5 is 66, 27, and 6. Thank you so much for watching this episode of 6 for 6, and we'll catch y'all next time here on 6 for 6. So long for now. Bye-bye.